Philadelphia has always been a city that wears its heart on its sleeve when it comes to football. The fans don't just cheer their players. They adopt them, embrace them, and fight for them as if they were family. And few players captured that energy like CJ Gardner-Johnson. Known for his fiery swagger, his trash talk on the field, and his knack for making game-changing plays. He wasn't just another defensive back. He was the spark, the edge, the emotional heartbeat of the Eagles' secondary. When Gardner-Johnson first put on the green and silver, it felt like destiny. He fit the city's identity: gritty, unapologetic, fearless. He wasn't afraid to jaw at opponents. He wasn't afraid to take risks. And most importantly, he wasn't afraid to make plays when it mattered most. Philadelphia fans adored him because he mirrored their own spirit. He wasn't polished. He was raw, passionate, and relentless. And in Philly, that's the kind of player who becomes a cult hero overnight. But then, like so many NFL stories, business got in the way of love. The offseason came, contracts became tricky, and Gardner-Johnson walked. The Eagles let him leave, and he signed with Houston. For fans, it was bittersweet, painful to watch him go, but many still held out hope that someday, maybe, he'd return. That bond between city and player hadn't been broken. It was just waiting to be reignited. And then the whispers started. Just a few weeks ago, reports began surfacing that the Eagles were considering a reunion. Gardner-Johnson wasn't thriving in Houston, and Philly's defense looked like it could use his energy again. The idea of him running back onto the field at Lincoln Financial, arms waving, the crowd exploding, it felt possible. Fans buzzed with excitement on social media. Bring him back. Make it happen. Philly needs CJGJ. But that's when the hammer dropped. A rule, an obscure, little-known NFL regulation buried deep in the league's handbook, slammed the door shut. Despite both sides being interested, despite fans begging for the reunion, Gardner-Johnson was told he couldn't come back to the Eagles this season. Not because of money, not because of injury, not because of bad blood, but because the league itself wouldn't allow it. The news spread like wildfire. Commentators on ESPN looked stunned. NFL insiders explained it in disbelief. Eagles fans were left scratching their heads. Wait, how can a rule stop a player from coming back if both the team and the player want it? This wasn't just disappointment. It was confusion mixed with outrage, because this wasn't just about losing a player. It was about losing the player. Gardner-Johnson wasn't a free agent nobody cared about. He was a fan favorite, a difference maker, a warrior the city wanted back in green. The idea that a technicality, a piece of fine print in the rulebook, could block him felt unreal. It didn't just feel unfair, it felt like betrayal. And here's where the suspense builds. Because if you think this was just about one guy and one team, you're wrong. This rule isn't just obscure. It's powerful. It can shape careers, change rosters, and flip destinies in ways fans never realize. And in Chapter 2, the story goes deeper. The twist isn't just that Gardner-Johnson was blocked. The twist is why the rule exists, what it really means, and how it could turn this entire saga into a nightmare not just for the Eagles, but for the entire NFL. The shock of the news spread across the league like wildfire. Fans thought CJ Gardner-Johnson's return to Philadelphia was a done deal. The Eagles needed him. He wanted to come back, and the story seemed written in the stars. But in the blink of an eye, that dream collapsed. Not because of negotiations, not because of money, not even because of injuries. It collapsed because of a rule buried so deep in the NFL handbook that even diehard fans had no idea it existed. Here's the twist. According to league rules, if a player is released after a certain deadline, that player cannot re-sign with the same team during that season. It's a clause created years ago, designed to prevent franchises from manipulating rosters, cutting veterans to clear cap space temporarily, then re-signing them later at bargain rates. On paper, it's about fairness. In reality, it became a brick wall that slammed shut the door on Gardner-Johnson's homecoming. For Eagles fans, the revelation felt like a punch to the gut. The idea that bureaucracy, not football, was stopping their team from improving was infuriating. Social media exploded. So you're telling me the NFL would rather stick to red tape than let a player reunite with the team that loves him? Wrote one furious fan. The hashtag #FreeCJJ trended for hours, with supporters demanding the league reconsider the outdated rule. But the fallout didn't stop at the fan base. Inside the Eagles' locker room, whispers grew louder. Several players had reportedly been excited about Gardner-Johnson's possible return. His energy, his leadership, his fire, those qualities don't show up on stat sheets, but they change locker rooms. When the news broke that the reunion was blocked, disappointment wasn't just felt by fans. It hit the players too. One unnamed Eagle told reporters off the record, "That's the kind of guy you want next to you in a fight." And now we're told no, just because of some technicality? It doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, Gardner-Johnson himself stayed quiet publicly, but sources close to him painted a picture of frustration. Imagine being told that the city where you left your mark wanted you back, that the fan base was begging for your return, that the team was ready to welcome you, only to be told the door was locked shut, not because of your ability, but because of paperwork. For a competitor like CJGJ, that kind of rejection cuts deeper than any tackle. And here's where the story takes its most dramatic turn, the climax that no one saw coming. If Gardner-Johnson couldn't return to Philadelphia, that didn't mean he'd stay sidelined. Other teams were watching closely. Contenders desperate for secondary help now saw an opportunity. Whispers began linking him to NFC rivals. Imagine the nightmare scenario for Eagles fans. Gardner-Johnson lining up in a rival jersey, staring across the field at the team that once called him family. A hero turned enemy, not by choice, but by a rule that forced his hand. Analysts began debating heatedly on live television. Some defended the rule, saying it kept the league competitive and prevented manipulation. Others ripped it apart, arguing that it punished players and robbed fans of the very reunions that make football stories so powerful. One former player said bluntly, "This isn't about fairness. This is about control. And the only people who lose are the players and the fans." For the Eagles, the situation left them exposed. They needed help in the secondary. They knew Gardner-Johnson was the perfect fit. And yet, their hands were tied. Instead of celebrating his return, they were forced to watch helplessly as the league's fine print dictated their fate. And so, the climax of this saga wasn't just the rule itself. It was the possibility that Gardner-Johnson, the very warrior who once bled green, might now use that same fire against Philadelphia. A storyline no fan wanted, but one that now loomed like a storm on the horizon. As the dust settled, one truth became clear. This wasn't just about one player. It was about a system that sometimes forgets the human side of the game. Gardner-Johnson's saga exposed the cold reality of the NFL, that talent, loyalty, and passion can all be overridden by rules written in ink decades ago. For fans, the heartbreak is real. For CJGJ, the anger is simmering. And for the league, the controversy is only beginning. Because if this rule can block one reunion, how many more stories, how many more moments will it kill before change finally comes? The NFL thrives on drama. But this was the kind of drama no one wanted. A hero exiled not by choice, not by performance, but by the invisible chains of the rulebook. And as Gardner-Johnson looks ahead to his future, one thing is certain, whether in Philadelphia or elsewhere, he will find a way to make his voice heard. And when he does, the league will remember that sometimes the fiercest hits don't come on the field. They come from the heart.